this thing we call sneaker culture is like such a complicated tapestry that I should always be trying to increase my understanding of it or widen my understanding of it.
Have you ever felt like sneaker culture had gone too far or not far enough?
Like, I think it would be hypocritical for me to say it's gone too far, because in the work that I've done over the past 15 years, like, I've definitely played a small role in like pushing sneaker culture from a niche subcultural thing to a more pop cultural thing.
What was that point in your life where if you didn't take that risk, that chance, you wouldn't be who you are today?
I mean, it was definitely a flight, one-way ticket to a place I'd never been, didn't know anybody, to embark on this journey in a more meaningful way. That's what led me here.
Let's flat out. Big teams, big boys, eh? My highs and lows, inherit growth, Mr. Deeds. Went from juggling 3 jobs to CEO like I'm Steve. Never been a rotten apple, call me John Appleseed. That's how I bleed. God can see, no other man can judge me. Call him Mike, Mr. International, getting cream. Single mother told me worth, and now I'm worth everything. Went from Wall Street to Abu Dhabi, straight rolling in a Maserati with women that feel exotic. My life too pristine.
Man, you didn't have to do them like that, man. You didn't have to do them like that.
It was film day.
Yeah.
We gotta make a statement.
Exactly, we gotta make a statement.
What's going on, man?
Flat out.
Welcome back to the Last Flat Out podcast. I'm your host, Mike, alongside Jay. We are back in New York, and this is a good one. This is gonna be a legendary one. Especially, you know us, we're into sneakers, we're into fashion. Jay, kick us off.
Exactly. From shaping sneaker culture on camera to now leading it behind the scenes, today's guest has done it all in the sneaker world. He's helped launch one of the most influential sneaker talk shows of the past decade, Full Size Run, co-hosted the Complex Sneaker Podcast, and worked with brands like Foot Locker, Adidas, Reebok to bring authentic storytelling to the culture. Now he's stepping into a new chapter as the Senior Director of Customer Community and Engagement at StockX, a role created to bridge the gap between the brand and the global sneaker community. A voice that's defined how we talk about sneakers and a mind now shaping how we experience them. Please welcome to the Last Flat Out podcast, Brendan Dunne.
Thank you, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Good, man. Thanks so much for the time.
Absolutely.
Honestly, like this is an honor to be in front of somebody who's transformed and helped create the storytelling around sneaker and sneaker cultures.
Very kind of you to say.
Yeah.
So how we typically like to start off the show when we have a guest on is that we'll have a little icebreaker. So
Okay.
I'll throw a word at you, anything that comes into your
Okay.
mind. Okay. The word is soul, SOLE.
The first thing I think of is Soul Collector, which is one of the websites I used to work for, a longstanding sneaker magazine / forum online community that got absorbed into the Complex machine in the 2010s, and I kind of bounced around between them. Some people have difficulty understanding where the lines blur, but basically I worked at Soul Collector for a number of years before officially transitioning over to Complex. But they're one and the same because Complex owned it at the time, so that's always the connection there for me, for sure.
Right. I remember I used to always go to Soul Collector, the forums and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
When I was a
ISS,
lot
yeah.
younger, it was like the place to go, and people would like have discussions and things like that. Which was
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So just get this out the way early. How many sneakers do you currently have in your collection?
So
What's your favorite pair?
Yeah, this is a question I get a lot, and I feel like the answer for most people who are obsessed with sneakers like I am is I don't know, because like it ebbs and it flows, and I acquire a lot of stuff and then I get rid of a lot of stuff because it starts to take over the personal space that I have in my life. So I usually am like estimating when people ask this question, and I think right now it's around 300.
Okay.
In New York City?
Yeah. Like I said, I get rid of stuff from time to time just because I have to manage the amount of square footage that is taken up by footwear. Yeah, so around there. Favorite pair, that's a really tough one. Honestly, this is not like, maybe I'm just saying it because it's on my feet right now, but I wear these New Balance 993s a ton just because it's like a plain, simple shoe that I don't have to worry about. Maybe that sounds antithetical to being like a guy who's obsessed with sneakers, but like this is a shoe that's by my door and that I wear a lot.
Okay.
So those are the beaters right now.
Yeah. kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Although they're not that beat up, even though I've been caught in the rain in them many times and they're suede, and usually expect them to take a harder beating, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So just piggybacking off his question, what got you into sneakers? I mean, I think that's a natural place to start. Like, was it just like a person that got you involved? Was it like the culture? Were you just curious? Like, what got you into sneaker culture?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was a teenager using the internet to figure out where these subcultures were and how people were using kind of niche things to say stuff about their identity, and sneakers was one of those things. So I remember watching Just for Kicks, a super important documentary that I think came out in 2005, and that taught me a lot about it. I mean, a lot of people have this experience of seeing Michael Jordan play in the sneakers or seeing Griffey in the first Griffey Max 1 and things like this. That's not my experience at all. Like, I didn't grow up in a household where we were watching sports. We had one channel on TV. It just like wasn't a thing.
Okay.
So like my entry point into sneakers comes through the internet and comes through online forums where people were talking about sneakers, Nike Talk, and then, you know, reading sites like Hypebeast, High Snobiety. So that's really where it started for me. It wasn't, even though I do believe in looking at sneakers as like sports centric footwear, and I think that that's the genesis and that's an important connection. The sports thing wasn't really my foundation in it.
Okay. So then what was your first like hype beast type of sneaker, you know, that you purchased or that you waited online for?
Yeah, I mean, the first cool sneaker that I got, I did not wait in line for it because there was nowhere around me to like wait. The background on this is I grew up in like the northernmost part of Idaho near the Canadian border. Like it's like very remote. So town of 10,000 people. So like there weren't places where I could physically go experience what we would call sneaker culture. So the first cool pair of sneakers I ever got, or at least in my mind they were cool, was from Ross at the time. Ross Dress for Less. They had one in a bigger town about an hour away from me, and I got a pair. I really wanted Nike SBs. Like, to me, that was like the coolest thing, or that was the thing that I strive to own. And of course, you want a Nike SB Dunk,
Right.
but they didn't have any SB Dunks at Ross at the time, even though stuff like that would filter out. But there was a Nike SB Zoom FC in a FC Barcelona colorway, red and blue suede, and that was the first pair of Nike SBs that I ever had. Yeah. Can't have cost more than $40 because my mom wouldn't have bought them for me if they did. I don't think they had the box because that was the case for a lot of those items back then. And I don't even think I knew what FC Barcelona was.
Yeah.
But it was a cool Nike SB shoe and it had a swoosh on it. So that was good enough for me at the time.
Okay. And I guess when did you realize in this, while you're collecting your sneakers and you're getting more into the subculture, that sneakers are just much more than the product? Like there's actually a community that it could be part of your identity sometimes.
Yeah.
Like when was that inflection point for you?
I think right away, because that was what drew me into it, was that there were like people collecting these things, people trading these things, sneakers that were worth more than others, sneakers that could be worth $1,000, which was hard to comprehend at the time. So like right away, that's what excited me about it, is the idea that there were communities around it or subcultures around it. Now, of course, it's much more pop cultural, but like that was something that really drew me in.
Right. And what was the first time that you actually had to line up for something? You remember? And what was it for?
The first time I lined up definitely would have been for a pair of Jordans, because when I went to college, I went to the University of Oregon in Eugene, Oregon, and that was the first time I like lived near a Foot Locker. So many weekends I would go to the mall, go to the local Foot Locker and line up for whatever Jordan 3 was coming out at the time, or Jordan 6. So like I spent a decent number of weekends in my college years lining up at the mall at Foot Locker.
Okay. Yeah. And was it at Eugene that you started like kind of getting involved in the forum space, like with Soul Collector and things like that? Was it at that point, or?
Well, that was the first time that I started like professionally embarking on this sneaker journey. That was the first time I was like writing blog posts for sites and things like that. So late into my college years, was when I was like becoming kind of a more official member of like sneaker culture, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. And how did that happen? Was that just, you just reaching out to different companies and trying to write articles for them, or,
Yeah, it was one site in particular, Sneaker News at the time.
Okay.
They had just a little banner on their site asking for writing submissions, saying that they were hiring, and I sent an email off, and I think it was a while before I heard back, but they liked the 2 short samples that I submitted, and so they put me on a site called Jordan's Daily that they were starting at the time, which was like as it sounds, a Jordan specific site that was all about Air Jordan retros and rare collectibles and things like that. So I think that was 2011, and I was just working for them freelance and part-time. And yeah, as I left the University of Oregon, had more time to dedicate to this stuff, and really pursued it full time right out of college.
Okay. And was there anyone in particular, as you're getting started professionally in like journalism and sort of just writing about the culture, was there any particular event or someone who kind of influenced you in sort of finding your own voice in the space so that you can become a prominent voice within the culture?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who I am indebted to that helped me get to where I am today. Those early people are the people I worked with at Sneaker News. A guy named John Kim, Aaron KR, Yuming Wu, who started the website. So they all brought me in. And then when I made the transition over to Complex and Soul Collector, a guy named Gerald Flores was managing me at the time, and he really supported me and pushed me to level up my writing and level up my reporting and be more in depth with the things that we were doing at the time. So those are all the people who I think of. Nick Schoenberger is another one. He's at Nike now, who really, again, that first step is bringing me in the door, and then like the next step is pushing me to go further. So yeah, a lot of people I think of when you ask that.
Yeah. When did you first feel that, because now with platforms like Full Size Run, and I feel like you're a part of that generation that kind of globalized, the sneakerhead culture and community, and the face that can kind of predict or says like, this is the best shoe of the year.
Yeah.
This is what you need to have on your feet. Do you feel that way? Like, okay, I could make a shoe go.
No.
I could hype beast it up.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I can't even go to the sneakers app and get it. Like it's already sold out by the time it drops.
That's not my fault.
That was your fault, man.
No, absolutely no. I don't think I have that much influence in the way people purchase things. I hope to have influence in the way they understand these items and like the history around them, or like the cultural context around them. Like I would not endeavor to call myself an influencer, or like I don't think I've ever stamped a shoe and people like ran out to buy it in any way like that. Yeah, I am involved in like giving my opinion on things, but like I hope that like more for my opinion or my taste or my predictions, people know me for like my reporting and my interviews and things like that. And I try it is a big responsibility of like, what do we say is the sneaker of the year? But we try to make those things, when I was doing those conversations at Complex, we try to make those things a reflection of our audience more than our own particular tastes. Cause like,
right.
And it's funny when we would do those exercises at Complex of sneaker of the year, best Jordans of the year, things like that, we would also set aside some time at the end of the year to do our like personal top 5 or whatever. Right. And inevitably those compilations end up being hugely divergent from what we're stamping as the general like 10 best sneakers of the year, which is fine. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of responsibility for sure, and it's hard to get those things right. But also like, it's not about like my personal, like I don't think I'm like a tastemaker or like somebody that people want to dress like or wear the same shoes as.
What a humble guy. No. But speaking on globalizing and sort of like bringing sneaker culture to the forefront, you did create Full Size Run, right? Like that's I think that's within the culture, that's something that's sort of changed the way tones and like the way sneakers just spoken about. Like how did that come about? Where did that sort of was born from? Like how did that started?
Yeah, I mean the gentleman who I mentioned earlier, Gerald Flores, was really instrumental in creating that show. He was one of my managers at Complex, and it just came at a time when Complex needed more video content. And the show actually began as a live show on Facebook Live because that was just like such an important platform for us at the time. And that's kind of where we got our chops and figured out what we were doing, because I had never hosted a show before. And the other thing is that during its entire tenure, I was a co-host, so I worked alongside Matt Welty and later on Trinidad James, people who are equally as important as I am to making this thing and figuring out the tone. And then also our editor, Matt Gion, a guy who really, when you talk about tone, like figured out how the show could be funny but serious at the same time and irreverent and stand out. So yeah, Gerald really kind of put us together and helped us figure out what we should be talking about and how we could segment the thing out. So yeah, there's no like super interesting origin story other than it was like it came at a time when digital media was pivoting to video, as the cliche goes, and we made a weekly talk show about sneakers, and we were able to sustain it through, longer than it's funny, we look back on it and I'm like, oh, we did that thing for like 6 or 7 years. Yeah. Don't go back and watch the first episodes.
Those are the ones, those are the origin story episodes, man.
Yeah. I don't need to see those.
What do you prefer more? Do you prefer being in front of the camera, or really behind the scenes, or journaling and writing those articles?
Honestly, I kind of prefer writing stuff, and
Okay.
I feel like I'm probably better at that, and it gives you more time to perfect things and hone things, in my experience. I think at this point, inevitably, most people know me more for being on podcasts or being on shows, which is cool, but I also hope that that people have read the stuff that I did when I worked at Complex.
It's 2025, man. That's a big ask for
Asking people to read.
asking people to read nowadays, right? But how do you, I always find this with journalists, how do you balance being an honest critic and navigating your relationships with sort of brands and sort of like publishing houses, where you're like, I might love your brand, but this one particular product may just not fit my taste, right? And I'm about to rip it in 3, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that it's just like separating the things that you do and which of it is opinion based and which of it is fact based. And the way that I kind of always like drew that line in the work that I used to do at Complex was like, a lot of the stuff that we would publish on the website when I'm writing about things are very, very reported out and sourced, and again, interviews, getting different people to comment on things. So that was kind of like more often than not, the things that we would publish on the website or the things that I would publish on the website had nothing to do with my opinion. But then I felt like when I was in front of a camera opining on things, it gave me the liberty to be like, this is my take on things, or this is my opinion on how good a shoe is. Like I would never, for the most, not never, but like when I was writing for this website, like wouldn't like write a thing about how much I liked or disliked the shoe for the most part. But when I go on a show like Full Size Run or the Complex Sneaker Show that we later did, like that was more about like, here's me, I'm talking to you. This is my opinion on this thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't know that the audience always understood the difference, but that was our intent.
Right. No, like it was your views.
Right.
We're on front of the camera. When you have an employer that goes through several layers of editing, it may not, what it started may be different form to what it was the final product. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
And also, I seen in a previous podcast, you mentioned how you almost broke the story of when Jerry went from Nike to then Adidas, right?
Yeah.
Is that so? Are things like that now getting easier? I guess because you're facing notoriety, where you can break stories like that because of the relationships that you've built over these years.
Well, it's funny, like in some ways, and again, I don't do this stuff like this is kind of my past life. I'm at StockX now working on a different version of sneaker culture, but like in this past life at Complex, like it did get easier as I gained more context, but also like it got a little bit harder because like you start to have relationships with these people, and it's like when you have the scoop and you have to ask the person directly, it isn't always comfortable. Like when you have the news about this designer going from this company to that company, and you just got to be like, hey, I heard this. Is this true? And even though you've interviewed them a handful of times, you're still going to publish it, whether or not they want you to publish it. Do you know what I mean? So it does get easier because you're more entrenched in the industry, and you know more people who can help you solidify the story or tell you if the story's off. But also like, I'm friends with some of these people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not that I'm friends with Jerry Lorenzo, but I've exchanged messages with him a handful of times over the years.
You could be.
No,
no, but was there ever an interview or sort of interaction that you've had? Sneaker culture has evolved since the time that you started to where we are today. Like, was there ever an interaction that you've had, whether it was at Complex, whether it's at StockX now, or when you were a Full Size Run, that made you sort of like reevaluate your views on on sneaker culture?
I'm trying to think. Like, I think that I tried to adjust how I feel about this stuff whenever I talk to other people, because, like, again, I want to be a conduit for how people feel about sneakers, or like, even in the work we do at StockX, it's like I want us to be a conduit for global sneaker culture. So I don't think there's ever been like an aha moment that really shifted how I think about this stuff as a whole. But I always try and adjust, and I'm always like trying to take in other people's views or experiences to be like, oh, right, this thing we call sneaker culture is like such a complicated tapestry that I should always be trying to understand. I should always be trying to increase my understanding of it or widen my understanding of it.
Right. All right.
And then now, transitioning to StockX, what was in that decision for you, or why you thought now was the good time to move over to StockX and do something different? Now you're going to be building communities and things like that. What was that? What was the thought process in that?
Yeah, it was just an exciting opportunity to do something new, to do something different. I felt like I had accomplished what I needed to at Complex, and I've always felt, and I'm happy to say, I've said this before, like I'm on the record before I ever joined StockX of saying that like StockX more than any other platform has shaped how we experience sneakers and how we transact around sneakers, how we acquire them, how we sell them, more than probably any other entity other than like the big brands, Nike, Adidas, etc. Over the last 10 years. Like I said, I know that sounds like a commercial, but I've said that before they ever started paying me. So I really do believe that. So I think it just has such a potential in being this thing that I said before, a conduit for how people experience sneakers. And like, we want people to use the platform to make trades, absolutely, for sure. But also we want people to understand that like StockX is an entity that powers sneaker culture, and that sneaker culture can go through, and we can have events where you can come and meet other people who love sneakers just as much as you do, or we can, help bring Jay Tips to the city downtown and partner with him on an activation, or we'll see you at Complex Con, or we'll tell you when the new releases are coming, or just like things like this help open it up a little bit more.
Yeah. And so what would you say community actually means, and sort of like, we're as capitalist as ever, resale driven as ever. What does that actually mean to you in terms of community in the sneaker culture and using your platform now that you have at StockX?
Yeah, I think that it's just about like, again, it's one of those words like community and culture where I'm like, yeah, we hear them a lot. What do they actually mean? I think in sneakers it means just like being able to connect with people and being able to share your stories and being able to like relate or not always relate or disagree with other people's experiences, but just be like, yo, we care about this thing tremendously, and we want to be connected to other people who care about this thing. And I do think like StockX can help with that. I think that these cultures like emerge naturally as we become more obsessed with these things, with these pieces of footwear. And that's something I've always been not always been a part of, but like, for the past 20, 25 years or whatever, it's been a huge part of my life. So it's something I really believe in.
Yeah. So just the reason I asked you that was because my own experience with sneakers, when I was younger, I used to be into like sneakers and stuff like that, lining up for.
What are you used to? You're not still into sneakers?
Nah, not as much, and I'll tell you why.
I'm out of here.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because I used to line up just like anybody else, cold nights, 12 hours overnight with a lawn chair in Jamaica, in the hood, like on the Foot Lockers around there. I used to love doing that with a group of my friends.
Coliseum?
About it. No, on Jamaica Avenue on the Foot Locker. Okay. Another one that's like all the way down by like 165th Street.
Okay.
Whatever. So there used to be a Foot Locker there, and that used to be the go-to Foot Locker. Then it turned into like everything is doing wristbands, right? Then went from the wristbands to the raffles, and then the raffles to the whatever the app,
sneakers app,
sneakers app. You lost me at the sneakers app because every time there was a hot drop, and I understand why people were doing it because people were getting robbed. But I feel like that was part of the culture, right? Like for me, that was just part of the experience.
Physical outside.
The physical outside, waiting in the cold on December 23rd when the Space Jams came out, retro. I lined up 14 hours in like -2 degree weather.
Did you get the shoe?
I did. Size 10. It was me and my boy. There was the only 10s. The guy came outside. We only got 2 10s. And the guy behind us was the 10s. Like, fuck. And then whatever. He ended up making a trade later on. But anyway, that was like the memories of sneakers that I had.
Yeah.
Then when it transitions to everything online and I couldn't get anything unless you had a bot.
Bots,
I didn't have the bots. People were investing thousands of dollars on bots. It kind of like pushed people like me out of the community because I wasn't doing it for a resale. I wasn't doing it to sell my sneakers. I was
Right.
doing it because I wanted the sneaker. I wanted to wear them. I wanted to show them off when around my friends. But then it got towards this whole, we can make crazy amount of money off of this. And
Yeah.
people are willing to pay that because I work in an industry where people are not into sneakers, but because they have the capital to pay the upsell charge,
Sure.
they don't care because they don't want to wait outside. They don't want that experience. So I'm always wondering now, like, that's what drew me out of the community.
Mhm.
And now when I hear it, it has, I kind of like still listen in to some people who are still part of it. You either need access to connects
Yeah.
where you don't need to worry about that, have a shitload of money, or just get extremely lucky.
Yeah.
And I don't want to fit into any one of those buckets. So I don't know how, for people like me who used to love that sort of like culture, you can reintegrate it back in today's society. Just in terms, like, everybody needs to make money, right? Like, we all work at corporations. I understand profit, P&Ls, all that stuff, but it's just to me, like, it's sort of like lost the edge a little bit, lost the essence of what the community was, at least to me. At least to me. So it's just sort of like, how do we bring that back, right? Like, how do we bring back the people who, I don't mind standing in a line if
Yeah.
I like the sneaker, but I don't want to be beat by like a bot out of from whatever some country
Yeah.
out in East Asia, right? So like,
I know what you mean, and I've had that experience too. Although, like, I will put the asterisk and the caveat on it that I have a lot of privilege in sneakers, and so like I can get the things that I want for the most part. But I think that what you're describing is a totally valid experience, but at the same time, like, your version of standing in line for like
Yeah.
a young person who's in their early 20s, their version of that is buying a bot or
Yeah,
hanging out
true,
in a
yeah.
Discord all day long, and like they're also investing
yeah.
time in the same way that you did, and like they're also hunting these things down, but they just may be doing it in a different way, or
Yeah.
in a digital space rather than in a
Right.
physical space, which I think is the trend of a lot of the things
Yeah.
we experience and enjoy. But the good thing is, or maybe not the good thing, but for people like us, like who enjoyed those experiences, I do think in the past like year and a half, there's been a push from the big brands to make those experiences like crucial again, or do more in-person events, which is like something I've really enjoyed.
Yeah. My experience is a little bit different. I feel like the older I've
You had
got,
the bots. He was the guy with the bots. We got him.
He's on the internet.
We got him.
He's been a part of the internet. So
the older
like,
I got, and just working a job and having the money to
Yeah.
buy the sneakers that I always dreamed of as a kid.
Yeah.
Now I've been reintroduced to the sneaker community and buying all the kicks that I want. But,
On StockX.
yeah, on StockX.
Exactly.
On
On
StockX.
StockX. But also I feel like things are cyclical. And I feel like right now we've reached a period where the resale margins aren't that great anymore, where it's reasonable. You may pay a little bit over resale, but not as much. And it's only few collaborations where it's like, damn, like Travis Scott Jordans, where it's going to be crazy, where you're going to have
Right.
to pay a pretty penny. But other than that, it's like, for the most part, I've seen sneakers that I want in my size. Like, all right, I'm going to pay a little bit over, but not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
I think it's a great thing. If you're a collector,
Yeah.
and I'm a collector, I want to wear my sneakers. I don't want to resell anything.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I think it's a great time for collectors right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with that. It's a good time for collectors too. I mean, like, someone who has the money to buy, if I wanted to buy a certain sneaker, I could do it, but it's just kind of missed that nostalgic feeling a little
Yeah.
bit, right? That's my only gripe. It's not like, I'm not saying it's a bad place where we're at right
I
now.
hear you.
But on that, had you ever felt like sneaker culture had gone too far or not far enough? Like, in terms of gone too far, you're like, okay, this is just getting out of hand now. Like, this is not what the essence of what sneaker culture is or it's supposed to be.
I've definitely had that feeling sometimes, but then also I have to be like, I don't want to be a gatekeeper. And I think that like one of the main criticisms people would level against us in our work at Complex is like us trying to be gatekeepers, and like gatekeeping is a big word with young
Gatekeeping of
people.
what though? What
Yeah,
was gatekeeping?
of like who's allowed in or who's not, which is like not my place to say. And it's funny because the gatekeeping thing gets caught up a lot in just like trying to teach people the history around things. It's like, I'm not trying to say you can or can't participate. I'm just trying to tell you like this thing has rules and like predecessors. Anyways, that's a whole other conversation.
It's a little gang, you know what I mean? Like, you need to get initiated.
Yeah, but has it gone too far? No, I don't think so. And also, like, I think it would be hypocritical for me to say it's gone too far, because in the work that I've done over the past 15 years, like, I've definitely played a small role in like pushing sneaker culture from a niche subcultural thing to a more pop cultural thing, and I've benefited off of that greatly, just to be transparent. So like, I think it would be wrong for me to say that it's gone too far. I think that sometimes I do have that feeling of like, oh, this used to be like a more niche thing, and the experience you hear people describe a lot. And I heard somebody mention it on a panel a few days ago. I think it was Bradley Carbone, a gentleman who used to work at Complex, was that like you'd see somebody on the street or in an airport and they'd have a cool pair of shoes and you'd have a conversation with them because you had a shared sense of values or knowledge about these things. Now that's been eroded, and you see somebody and you don't necessarily know if they know the history on around that shoe. That's fine. Not everybody has to know the history on the shoes that they wear, but that's probably the closest version I have of that feeling of like, oh, it would have been like when I was in college and I saw somebody wear a pair of skunk SB Dunk highs, like I knew that they stood in line for them or read a lot about them or researched them and cared about them tremendously. Now I don't default to that, and like, so I do know that feeling.
Right.
And how do you feel now about there's a lot of independent designers that are coming out with their own sneaker brands and things like that. How do you think that influences the market, or, you know, how do you look at, you know, those type of sneakers or those brands?
I love that, because I think that as sneaker consumers, we are brainwashed in a way of there are only 4 or 5 choices really that we have with brands. And I was talking to somebody about Salehi Bembury recently, and he just launched his own line, Sponge, and I think it's incredible that finally designers have more resources to make these things happen on their own without having to rely on, I mean, this is real. The real gatekeeping is when there's like a $1 billion company who has all the access to the means of production, you know what I mean? So when you talk about small designers, I'm happy we're like trending toward a world where like more of them are able to support themselves. I don't like all those shoes, but like, I think it's good for the industry, and I think it's a healthy thing.
It creates diversification, right?
Yeah.
It creates a competitive creativity, like creative.
Yeah, for sure.
Competitive, right?
For sure.
So, and I think that's good because it pushes other creators to reach the boundaries of performance and design and fashion, right? Like, because if you just keep it to the same 4 or 5 players, it's just going to be a copycat league, right?
Yeah.
Like when you have somebody who's going to break the mold, it's going to sort of force everybody else to sort of say, okay, we need to be different too.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the biggest thing. And what would you say is, going back to what you said before about like, you know, people gatekeeping or whatever it may be, what do you think is the most common misconception that outsiders have about sneaker cultures or sneakerheads in the industry?
That's a tough one. The most common like if I'm
give us a few.
if I'm a person who's like not into sneakers at all.
Sneakers at all.
What might I think? I don't know. It's a hard mindset to put myself in because all I ever think about is sports footwear. Well, it's funny, like whenever I have this conversation, you know, you have them at like, well, not work events, because everybody I work with knows about sneakers, but you know, like a family event, or like you're with your partner somewhere, and their family wants to know about what you do. And I think like one of the funny things is always like telling people like, yeah, a lot of the shoes I have I've never worn, and they're like, what, you have 300 pairs of shoes or whatever, and half of them you haven't ever worn? Like it's a foreign concept to people that you would like, you would just like hold it. And sometimes you're holding it for value, but sometimes you're holding it for no particular reason other than like you need the mental like stability to know that you always have that shoe on ice, and like you could break out a clean pair of them whenever.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, I have a story. I probably stored it all wrong, but I had the Jordan Olives.
Olive nines, yeah.
The nines, yeah.
He sent me a video
on my Instagram.
Yeah.
Literally, I just stored them in, I had a room, I just had them in like an IKEA kind of desk. And that colorway, the olive colorway, I think they recently came back out with it. But before then, I think mine was either 2012 or 2016 or something like that. I wore them, and I brought them out, and like I started walking, and it felt like flip-flops. And I wore them to a basketball game in a stadium, and literally as I'm walking,
you're courtside, crumbling everywhere.
Walking, and like I look behind, the sole is right there. And good thing I had an extra pair of sneakers in my car. But man, it was.
I know the feeling. And it's a weird era that we're in, because when you say 2012, 2016, I'm like, that doesn't seem like when the shoes should be crumbling. Like the shoes from that era, it feels like they should still be holding up. But I guess that we're that old now.
But probably how I stored it.
But also it's kind of a flex, and I've been guilty a few times of like doing that on purpose, or like trying to create a viral moment of like, yeah, what can I say? Yeah, these are from 2003, you know?
Yeah, but you know what? People that are in the sneakerhead community know.
Yeah.
And then my friends that weren't, they were like, "You bought fake Jordans?" Like,
you're like, no,
like, it's not fake.
Let me explain to you what happened.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I have a pair of triple white ones, high tops, that have not broken out since I bought them.
Yeah.
Like, I just like seeing them all nice and white.
How old are they?
They're like 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
No, I've never.
You got plenty of time.
I've never worn them because I just like looking at it. I look at it every once in a while. I was like, oh, it's a little yellow. It's okay. It's fine.
I have a pair of white on white Air Force Ones that I think are from like 2002, and the leather is real nice and the lining is real
back when
puffy.
Sneakers were made different. You know?
Yeah, but I've never worn them, and at this point, I'm like, I don't actually know when I'm going to get a chance to wear them because actually Air Force Ones hold up better than most, but yeah, I'm not going to get a lot of mileage out of those when I finally put them on feet. And it's the kind of shoe where it's not even going to look like that much of a flex to the average person because it just looks like a regular pair of Air Force Ones.
Yeah.
And how do you see like sort of the tension between hype and authenticity playing out in today's like sneaker ecosystem? Because I feel like that's a hard balance. You know, you have the hype beasts and then you have the people who are the true sneakerheads, such as yourself and the other pioneers. So
it's another one where I have difficulty figuring out where to draw the line because I don't want to like judge people and be like, oh, this person likes this shoe for a set of reasons that is less valid than mine. And also I think that like I've heard people who are, you know, real hardcore sneaker collectors and been into it for a long time say like, oh, I don't fall victim to the hype. It's like, you are kidding yourself if you ever believed that like you were never susceptible to the millions of dollars that again these billion-dollar companies are spending trying to convince you to like these things in ways that are sometimes very obvious and sometimes quite clandestine. So like, you know, I can't say that I'm not victim to hype. So maybe I don't want to sound like non-committal on all these things, but I really believe in like not being, again, like, it's not gatekeeping because I hate the way people use that word, but it's like I want to be receptive to the way people experience shoes. That said, I do have like my old school like rules and things of I'm like, why would you wear that shoe if you don't care about the designer at all? Or like, why would you wear that collaboration with that artist if you don't appreciate that artist's work at all? You know, and so I use that for my own consumption habits of like, Travis Scott's a good example. Like, I just don't listen to that much Travis Scott music. So like what he's done in sneakers is incredible, and you have to give him immense amounts of credit for like the way he's been able to move mountains and the partnership he has and how important that is for Nike and Jordan. And I like a lot of those shoes, but like I just don't listen to very much Travis Scott music. Right. So I don't pursue them that often because I'm like, other people should be able to enjoy these over me.
Yeah. I tried to get those sneakers and I literally, when it came out, sold out. I was like, come on. That's when I gave up and deleted the app. I was like, this is
the way it goes sometimes. You deleted the app, but they're on StockX.
I know, they're on StockX. Sure, go on StockX where there's no gatekeeping. You can just go.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
No, but as far as when it comes to, I guess, what do you think about sneaker customization? Because I had a phase where I even took a sneaker class with the shoe surgeon.
Oh, awesome.
So and for me, I thought that was cooler, a way to stand out.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I do think it's cool, and I think that those people are a lot of times incredible at their craft. People like Shoe Surgeon, people like Mosh, like just done great work. I've never really bought a custom pair of sneakers. I don't think I've ever. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've never bought a custom pair of sneakers just because like I'm more interested in people partnering up with brands and like doing the really hard work of like convincing them that not that we always need a stamp from a big brand that are to make our work cool, but like I don't know. I just never, it just was never for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I never did it yourself, and
you never got some BDs on your stuff, like
Air Force Ones are a great canvas too.
You're right about that. You're right about that. No, the closest I got was when Nike did a big booth with Virgil for Complex Con, I think in 2017, around the time that the 10 originally launched, and they had a big like custom station there where you could like cut the swooshes off and replace them with different things and dip dye them. But like that was in my mind like a slightly different thing because it was like Nike stamped it, or it was like an official Nike customization thing. I've definitely done Nike ID or Nike by You as they call it now. Like I've done that, but that's like, you know, through the brand.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And transitioning from like, you know, your time from Northern Idaho to Eugene to Soul Collector to then Complex, and now your time at StockX. What does success in your role now look like beyond the engagement metrics or beyond the numbers? Like what would success look like for you, and what are some of the initial goals that you set out for yourself when you took out this role?
Yeah, I think success for me in this role at StockX looks like just being able to bring people together and being able to like give people the space, whether that's like physical space or digital space, to like talk about sneakers and to connect over sneakers, and to really show people like what we do at StockX. You know, recently we spent a lot of time at our XFC, our verification center, our fulfillment center out in New Jersey, where you could come by there and you can see everything that we do and like show people how invested we are in the sneakers thing, and how invested we are at like rooting out the suspected inauthentic pairs that come through, and just like how much work we do. It's really cool work. And we have an X-ray machine where we put sneakers into the CT scanning machine and see what they look like on the inside and determine whether or not they're worthy of being verified by us, because we could, you know, see way deeper than you would with the naked eye. So being able to show people stuff like that is really important to me too, because like once I got to StockX, I was able to understand the extent to which like people at the company are invested in like protecting sneaker culture in a way, you know what I mean?
It's a lot of fugazi out there, man.
Are you big on that? Can you detect the fake? Like,
no, we have verification experts.
Okay.
I'm not a verification expert. I spent a lot of time with them and I have a great respect for what they do, but like that is not my skill set.
Okay.
And so like, if ever I had a question about that, I would bring it to one of my colleagues, one of our team members at a verification center, at a fulfillment center, and say like, hey, I need to know, is this sneaker legit or not? But me, myself, no.
Okay. And knowing what you know today, all this experience and all this knowledge that you've collected, and sort of like the culture that you've helped build, what are some of the things that you would have told yourself when you first started writing about the culture that you know today? What would you have told the younger version Brendan back in the University of Oregon?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I wish that I would have arrived sooner to like this mode that I found myself in like mid 2010s, of just like really being able to write in depth, and that like people would care about like in depth storytelling around sneakers. Because, and I'm not like, I have no regrets about like this being my entry point, but like when I first started writing about sneakers, it was very like surface level, 150 word blog post. This shoe is dropping at this time, you can get it then, or like here's some new leaked images of this upcoming Air Jordan Retro, which like that stuff serves a purpose and people like that stuff. But like the things that I found really rewarding were being able to go a few levels deeper than that, which like it took me a while to arrive at that. So I wish I could have arrived there sooner, because like that stuff is so fulfilling and I think important.
And I think going deeper, you need experience, right?
Yeah,
and you were building,
this is true.
You need experience to go deeper, right? Like it's
this is
like
true
in anything that we're doing, whether you're law, journalist, whatever it may be. You can only get deeper and ask the more profound and thought-provoking questions as you become more experienced. So I don't think that's something you could hold yourself against. Maybe you could have done more to get more experience earlier on, but it's not like you would have known day one to what thought-provoking questions you could have asked, right?
True.
Like,
you let me off the hook. I love it.
That's what we're here to do, man. We're here to make everybody look good.
Yeah.
This is my lawyer, right? He's gonna get me off the hook when I really need it.
Yeah,
he's your guy.
I'm your dude, but I'm not a litigation lawyer, so like you have to call somebody else for that. That's a real lawyer.
You know, conscious of time, we just got a couple more questions. What would you recommend any young person in high school or in college, if they want to get in this industry and really make an impact? Where would you advise them to start?
I think that I would advise them to start asking questions about like what's not there right now, whether like if they want to cover sneakers from like a content or media perspective, what are people not covering, or what are the stories people aren't telling? And then if they want to make shoes, I think the question is like, what is it that people aren't making, or what is it that's missing? And that may sound like a like basic response, but I do think it's important to be like, oh, what are people like not doing in this space?
Right. Okay. And one last question, and then Mike is going to ask you a seminal question. So you're at the point of your career now where you're at the crossroads between commerce and culture.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stay like grounded when both worlds are constantly shifting? You know, like how do you keep that balance?
Yeah, I mean, I think I stay grounded in the commerce thing just like naturally, because like that's, again, we care about trades at StockX and we want people to use the platform for that. But I stay grounded in the culture aspect by just trying to be everywhere I can where people are interacting around sneakers, and always listening to how people are talking about certain shoes and taking in new opinions and going to the lineups and going to the stores and really just like, making sure that I still have my ear to the street in a way.
All right, cool.
All right. And we have one question that we ask every single one of our guests is, what was your last flat out? And when we say that is, what was that point in your life where if you didn't take that risk or that chance, you wouldn't be who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a flight, and I was thinking about it this morning before I came to this space that we're at now. When I graduated from the University of Oregon in the summer of 2012, I started working full time for Sneaker News, and then a few months later, I moved to New York to be in their office and to be like really a bigger part of the team. And like, I had never been to New York before. I hadn't lived in a big city like really at all, and I took a one-way flight from Portland to I had no money, so I flew into Newark, and then
Newark has gotten better.
I know, but
Newark is better than JFK, so
you're not wrong about that. Okay, but the thing is that I had like this is when I moved to New York. I'd never been there before, but I found like a 1-month sublet in Queens. So like I flew into Newark and then took a cab from like Newark to like Sunnyside.
Sunnyside, all right,
Sunnyside or Woodside.
That's not that bad. So you got a little money in your pocket. I'm from Queens, so like.
Okay. The point is that it was a long way. It was a long way.
That's the point.
I think I wrote the cab driver a check. I think I wrote
a check?
Yeah. I can't remember.
I don't think I've ever paid it.
And he accepted it.
But I the connection is that like when I came here to New York in 2012, the building I was working in is just like a block away from where we are in the studio now, and I could see it when I was standing on the street. I think it was 401 Broadway, and I remember it was like, which one's the one? I always get Memorial Day and Labor Day mixed up. Which one's the later one? That's Labor Day.
Labor Day is the
okay. I think it was Labor Day weekend. It was September 1st was my first day in New York.
Yeah.
And I like took the train. I knew the address. I'm answering your question in a very long way. Sorry.
No,
I knew the address of the building where the Sneaker News office was. And so I like came on the Monday where we weren't working just to make sure I knew I could get there. Yeah. But I went to West Broadway instead of Broadway. And I was like looking around, as a young person who had never been to New York before, I didn't know the difference. And I was like, where? And then eventually I figured it out. But yeah, like that was such a pivotal time in my life. I was just like kind of leaving, not to be super dramatic, but leaving everything I knew behind, and one-way ticket to a place I'd never been and didn't know anybody to embark on this journey in a more meaningful way. And it's led me here.
Well, look, you came from Northern Idaho, you're in New York and Bed-Stuy now. Like, you're great. You're doing just fine, man.
Yeah.
But we thank you so much for the time today, man. Why don't you tell the audience where they can find you and anything else that you want them to know, any upcoming events that you'll be at? So.
Yeah, for sure. Y'all can find me at Brendan Dunne on all socials. I'm also everywhere that StockX is. I know this is coming out in December, so hopefully we will be surrounding your favorite sneaker releases for the holiday. Holiday's a big time for us.
Yep.
If you couldn't get the sneakers you wanted to get under the Christmas tree or that you're planning to get, we have them on StockX. So
I'll DM you for any sneakers that I need. I'm just kidding. And you can find.
I'll send you back a link to the product.
Yeah, exactly. Here you go. Here you can go ahead and bid.
Yeah.
But you can find us at Last Fight Out Podcast across all socials. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. You can find me
and the comment. Make sure you comment.
And comments. Comments very important. And you can find
comments.
Good comments. We'll take all comments.
For me, only good comments.
Only good comments for Brendan. And you can find me, Jay, at JLubriel26 across all socials. You can follow Mike at
If Mike Was Here.
Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time, same place next week. Man, you didn't have to do them like that, man. You didn't have to do them like that.
It was film day.
Yeah.
We gotta make a statement.
Exactly. We gotta make a statement. Last
What's
one
going
out.
on, man?
Flat out.